Okay, EJ, thanks for joining me.
Hey
Appreciate
Aaron,
it.
how are you today?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. Hey, as again, appreciate you coming on. As discussed, from an ALC perspective, we're trying to help both existing and new agents understand a little bit more about profit share. What it means to get involved with that, how they can get involved with it, what does it mean financially, those types of things. So, and for the record, and for everybody's watching, this is sort of off the cuff. We don't have any sort of scripted things coming out, so a lot of it's coming from EJ's perspective in terms of what it takes to get involved. So, EJ, maybe you can kick us off a little bit more about, why profit share is important, and what this means to maybe you, as well as what you think it might mean to new agents, existing agents.
Sure. Well, first of all, I appreciate you taking the time to actually spend some quality time with me today to figure out, how profit share can benefit agents. So I appreciate that, and that you're really, focused on that this year with ALC. That means a lot. Profit share to me, when I got into the business back in, I've been in the industry now 25 years, but I've been with Keller Williams now 16 roughly. I was leaving a corporate America job when I started with Keller Williams. I was with a company called First American in the real estate information side. And, I had a 401k set up and retirement and everything kind of in order for me if I had stayed in that path, that after 20 years, I'd have some type of retirement plan in place. And what I realized quickly in real estate was that that retirement plan wasn't there. I had to build that retirement plan, whether it was through investment property, putting money into an IRA or some other investment resource,
So
or
true.
adding, profit share into the mix. And so that became kind of part of the cultural piece for me, was that being able to grow profit share was very important because it became that passive income source. And I also kind of equated to, if you've ever been in corporate America, I know when I worked for various companies, they had programs where when you referred an employee or a prospective employee to the company, you were rewarded. My spouse's job, for instance, they give their employees $1,500 for referring a professional level employee or hire to their organization. That's a one-time payment. One time. They get it one time, they're taxed on that, and then it's done, once and done. With profit share, it goes on forever. And it's willable. That's the great thing about it. It doesn't just affect you. It's actually affecting your heirs as well. It's a legacy that you can now leave, and it continues to grow over time. So for me, it really was being able to provide a passive income source that would replace, hopefully, the retirement plan that I had at my previous employer.
Yeah, that is such a great point, because I too share the background in terms of second career coming out of the corporate world. That is absolutely, and people come in and think, okay, what about health insurance and what about retirement? The two normal corporate benefits. And it's nice to see actually within the Keller Williams mix that you can actually use the profit share for that piece. So thanks for mentioning that. I think
Aaron, it's funny because I've often said you see a lot of real estate agents that are, in their 70s, 80s, doing real estate. I'm sure that some of them are doing because they just love real estate. And by the way, I love real estate and I'm going to die doing real estate. Yet at the end of the day, I also know that when I start to get to a certain age, I don't want to be actually doing real estate like I do at my age today. And so I think what happens is a lot of people end up staying in the field, selling real estate full time later than they would have if they had a regular full-time job in a corporate America environment, because they don't necessarily have that nest egg set aside, and they maybe don't have the passive income streams that they would. So profit share provides that avenue for it if they're being purposeful with it, because as we'll kind of get to later, I think you've got some questions relating to that might help them understand how impactful profit share actually can be to them later on.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, then let's jump to that then, EJ. So let's talk about it with it framing sort of new and existing agents, because if you're new into the business, some of the tactics that you might do for, in terms of building your downline for a new agent might be different than existing. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm dividing it up that way. So it'd be helpful if you could sort of talk about, when I say tactics, I mean, what are actually practical things that people can do on a regular basis to build profit share, both from an existing agent and from a new agent's perspective?
So the best thing I've always said to people is it's all about relationships. And, at the end of the day, I've heard Linda McKissick, who, she and her husband, Jimmy, are the two largest recipients of profit share in the company. They're making $1.5 million or more a year in profit share. So obviously they've been pretty intentional about it. But what Linda will tell you is that she's not recruiting agents to KW. So a lot of our competitors, or I shouldn't say a lot of our competitors, one per competitor in particular that has a revenue share model, their agents become recruiters because they don't have a team leader. They don't have someone who's actually doing the recruiting in the office, so to speak, or the brokerage for them. So they actually become the recruiter. They have to tell the value story. They have to then convince an agent that their value story is stronger than anyone else's value proposition or value story out there in the marketplace. In our world, you as an agent or anyone within Keller Williams, you don't have to do that. There's really what I call the 3 R's of recruiting people to KW. It's the relating, the referring, and the recruiting. All an agent has to do is they just have to relate to people. They have to build a relationship and rapport with someone. And then they have to pick up the phone, get on their computer, their phone, whatever it is, stop by their team leader's office and refer that agent over to them. So that then they can have a meaningful conversation. And then the team leader is really responsible for doing the recruiting. And I've often said, although that the agent has 2 of those R's in the 3 R's, they have the relating and the referring. Those are the easiest pieces. Those are by far the much easier pieces of actually getting an agent into a company. And the great thing is the team leaders have been trained and they've been trained not only by Keller Williams, but internally and externally about how to actually recruit people, whether it's recruiting people to our model, recruiting people to a sales business, whatever it is. So the team leaders are very versed in having a consultation with another agent who might be looking to join the company. So I would say the best advice kind of goes back to it. And if you've got a couple seconds, I'm more than happy to share with you a quick story, because this story probably is the best one that relates to how easy it is. I was at a real estate conference. What's that?
It's just two seconds. So I think that's a really important point, which was you were saying, and this is off the cuff, it's not scripted, but just recapturing what you're saying. So you were saying that obviously we can bring people to the table. It's not really our job as agents to actually be able to close it down and bring the person to it, but it's obviously relate to the person and make an introduction. And then, team leaders, should have the capability to bring them in if it's the right fit, right?
Yeah, and I think you just hit the nail on the head. That's the biggest misconception is I hear agents all the time saying, I don't like to recruit, or I don't know how to recruit, or I don't know what to say. You really don't have to. All you have to do is build a relationship. So Aaron, you and I have known each other for a number of years. You're at one company, I'm at another, and I have a relationship with you. And because I've earned that right to have the relationship with you over the course of 5 years, 10 years, I have the right to ask you, hey, Aaron, how do you like your company you're working with right now? Or how's your business going? Or have you thought about making any changes in the future with your business? Something as simple as that starts the conversation, and it may lead to a conversation about, yeah, I've actually been thinking about making a change this year because my company hasn't really supported me in my business or whatever. And so I have been looking at making change. And then that leads into, well, would it be okay if I gave your name to my team leader for them to reach out and call you, right? And I would share that story. That I didn't think I've even shared the story with you a couple times. I was at a real estate conference in out of state here a few years ago, was asked to speak at it. And while I was there, I was in a Uber and going on a couple errands, and ultimately ended up in a conversation with the Uber driver about his career driving for Uber. And he was, ironically, go figure, another real estate agent that maybe wasn't as successful as they wanted to be with another company. So I started the dialogue. It lasted all of 5 minutes. I asked him how he liked his company. He didn't know what I did. I hadn't even talked to him about being in real estate. I just asked him a few quick questions like, how does he like real estate? How do you like the company you're with? And when we were having the conversation, it came out that he actually hadn't been too successful, and that his company wasn't providing the resources that he felt were needed in order for him to be able to sell real estate at a full-time level. And so I asked him just simply this one question: have you thought about making any type of change to another company? And if you have, are there any other companies out there that you've considered looking at? And his comment was no, and I'm not sure, I thought about it, but I didn't know who I would talk to. So I just simply said to him, have you considered Keller Williams? And his response was, I have. And I just didn't know who to reach out to. And I said, I've got somebody I can put you in touch with. I picked up the phone and called the team leader in that area and connected the two. And within 3 to 4 days later, they were signing on in that office. And that person who was already in production was now adding me as a sponsor. And now I have a downline in another state. It was that easy. And I probably spent, Aaron, I think I've told you, the story was probably about 5-10 minutes with this individual. So it was really super simple.
So it's interesting because I've had a couple other conversations, which I didn't share the details with you, but it's interesting in terms of to your point about the relating part, right? So we're going to meet people, family members, people who just in passing like this, everybody out there who are actually probably looking for, maybe looking for a career change. So even from a passive perspective, there represents opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, cross-sell agents. I mean, everybody, if they're selling real estate, they're talking to agents on the other side of the transaction. I think we're fearful to ask them the question, how's your business going this year? But I don't think we should be fearful. We all do, or we should be doing lead generation for real estate transactions. And when you talk to Linda McKissick, she'll tell you that part of her lead generation was devoted towards recruiting agents. And I don't mean she was doing the recruiting. It was having conversations with other agents that might want to make a switch over to KW. Great. So it's kind of like the bold law says, what you focus on expands, right? It's the same thing. If you don't focus on profit share, it'll never happen. It's the day that you make the decision to focus that activity or behavior in that arena, and you'll start seeing the results. And the results happen immediately, because if you're bringing a producing agent into another market center or your market center, and that market center is paying profit share, you're going to start seeing the results right away when that agent joins. You don't have to wait weeks and years and months.
So great. That's two perfect examples, right? So new agent, it doesn't matter the fact that you're still learning the language of real estate and how it applies to your business, right? So that can very easily be conversation. Look, I love where I've just started, and maybe you'd be interested in joining me at one of our events or talking to our team leader about what things are there, because I'm enjoying it. The other side of the coin is obviously talking to cross agents and following some of the thoughts you had there. So thanks.
Yeah, there's a really good script, Aaron. When an agent's made another decision about a brokerage, and whether it's a brand new agent or an existing agent, agents are going to make decisions, and whether they're to come to KW or another brokerage, they make the decision, and that's their first choice. And in my business, when I was outside of real estate, we had a disaster recovery site that was running parallel, right? And I know when I was selling real estate, I had 2 lenders that I did business with, and I had 2 home warranty companies and 2 title companies and all that, so that I had kind of a backup plan in case something went wrong, right? So the script that I've used quite often is that, hey, Aaron, this is EJ with Keller Williams. Hey, I know that you made a decision already. I know you've kind of picked your first choice for brokerage, and way to go. That's an awesome choice. They're a really great company. I wanted to meet with you to see if there was a possibility that I had an in with you to become an interview for your second choice. Because what I know is that there may come a point in time where you decide that you're going to get out of business with your current brokerage because something may happen, either with them or with you. And so I would love the opportunity to earn the right to basically interview to be the second choice for you. So it may not be today, tomorrow, whatever, but when could we set up a time so I know what's going on with your business and I can learn a little about your business, or have my team leader learn about your business so that they can stay in relationship with you, so that when the time comes where you're going to make that decision, we're already ready to kind of rock and roll on your behalf.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's a great conversation right there. And it's taking the sales side out of it. They don't feel as pressured anymore. But what it does do is it shows that you care. I actually care about your business. I'd love to learn about it a little bit and find out what you're doing. So then that way, if you have to make a change, I'm already prepared.
I'll tell you, I receive calls from lenders all the time wanting to do business, right? And I have select lender that I work with, but I also have backups that I know sometimes might be a better fit for whatever reason. So sure. It's a great analogy. Let's talk about the value of a downline. What does that represent? You get involved with this one. What might you expect from a financial perspective with recruiting, new or existing producing agents? Those, maybe you can help us a little understand a little more of that.
Yeah. So prior to us changing our economic model within the market center, a capper was worth about $2,000 annually. And I say about because it depends on when they reset and what the production level is that when they're actually closing transactions, and are they capping quickly, or are they capping over the course of many months, things of that nature, and how productive and how profitable the market center is. But generally speaking, a capper is worth about a couple $1,000s in a market center. So,
and excuse me, is that based on a first level?
That's a first level, like the immediate people that you're sponsoring. Yep.
Okay.
Good question. So in the new economic model in our two Sonora living offices, that's reduced down slightly. I'd say they're worth probably between $1,000 to $1,500 annually, based on our current where our economic profitability for the market centers are right now. Which, yeah, there was a little bit hit of that, but obviously the agents are getting a little bit more in their paycheck too. So it's a trade-off. That being the case, what I've said before is that in the model that we were in previously, if you had 15 people in your first level downline for a period of around 10 years, and those same 15 people had stayed in your downline for 15 years in your first level, on average in the United States, people were bringing in at least 6 figures of income in passive income. 15 people, 10 years, $100,000 of income. And remember, there's a couple key points. If you've got a mindset of wanting to build your downline, the goal would be is that some of the people that you're bringing into your downline also share that same vision or same value. Because it's not just about bringing in the 15 people, it's about bringing in people who actually share that vision, who maybe 3 or 4 of those people also attract and bring in other people under them as well, who also are producing real estate. And so consequently, now they're bringing in that downline. So it's not just about having a 15-person first level. It's actually about who do you bring in underneath them as well.
Right.
So it's I would say it's intentional. You don't want to just be bringing in all brand new agents. Brand new agents are great, but what we know is that 60 or 70% of brand new agents don't make it in the industry either. So one of the biggest complaints that I have from not just even a profit share model like Keller Williams, but if you look at just the industry or other companies, even outside real estate, who have models that are similar, when you bring in new people who have never experienced real estate before, there's a certain percentage of those that will fall out and they won't do real estate. And so if your only focus is to refer agents who are going to be brand new to the industry, your profit share return is going to be a lot less. And you run the risk of maybe even 50% of them aren't going to be doing real estate in another couple of years. Great. So my best advice is that you want to actually build your profit share with people who are already selling real estate, because that's going to be an immediate return. If I recruit you and Aaron, you're a $10 million producer today, the minute you close a transaction in my profitable market center, I'm going to see a profit share check in my bank account the very next month. So I bring you on, let's say in March, I could actually have a profit share check in my bank account in April. That's how fast it happens. And nice. I think what happens is that most agents refer somebody and they think that automatically that makes them eligible for profit share just by referring someone. And if I'm referring a brand new agent to the market center who has never sold real estate before, it could take them 6 or 9 months to even get their first transaction. We know, right? Some people luck out and they get it on the first month. On average, maybe 90 days. But there are those few that actually go 6 months, 9 months without a transaction. And maybe it's because they're a part-time agent or they're dual career. And so if you're waiting 6 or 9 months, you may be thinking that the profit share system doesn't work. And I've heard that as a team leader, as an operating principal, the feedback has been, well, that profit share doesn't work for me. And my immediate response is, it works great. Who did you bring in?
Sure.
Right.
So like we said in the beginning, I think we were just trying to keep it as sort of concise as possible, because we talked for a long time on this particular piece. I just want to recap some of the things that I took away from this conversation, because that resonate with me personally. But I find it interesting, if you are joining this as a career, maybe you have a spouse or a partner that is actually a primary breadwinner. But if you don't, which many of us don't have that, clearly retirement and retirement income, those type of things, has to be a concern. So you may be looking at a variety of ways, but this seems to be like a not easy, but a straightforward way to make something that's that pays regular dividends across it.
It's a great path towards passive income, a great path.
Indeed, indeed. So the other thing that sort of resonated with me was the talking about, I've known this, but I think it is important. Most people say, look, I don't want to be Mr. MLM, calling on everybody. It seems so pyramid-like. And frankly, it's not that way, but I think people smell that in the beginning. Maybe we can talk about that in a minute. But the other thing that I like about that is that all we have to do is establish sort of relationships with other people, whether passively with, like your example of a taxi driver, or a cross sale agent who I really enjoyed and thought would be great to actually have here as part of the team. And it's sort of a team leader's responsibility to try and close the door on that and bring them to the table.
Yep.
What I heard as well is that, typically within the Keller Williams system, on a first line person, you bring in maybe 2,000 per annum. If they're a producing agent, maybe in Keller Williams Sonora Living, because of the changes we made in our model to make sure that our caps were competitive, maybe around $1,000. And with that, what you shared was, hey, 15 people over 10 years can start producing a 6-figure income on a regular basis. So that was excellent. Thanks. Are all those correct?
You did a great job recapping that.
Okay, great. So then now let's just be realistic. I'm now coming in saying, all right, EJ, I'm committed this year. Tell me, what do you think is reasonable based on what you see in the marketplace for me to say, all right, I want to set a goal of 1, 2, 5 agents. What do you think is a very reasonable goal if somebody's intentional about recruiting, that somebody might want to place on themselves?
Well, typically our top, what we call growth share partners, those are the individuals within Sonora and Living who refer the most number of agents annually. And there's an award that we award at our awards gala each year for that individual. Those individuals typically are bringing in on average 5 to 10 people each year. So I think most recently it's been like maybe 7 or 8 per year. So they're averaging a little more than one every other month, but maybe not quite one every single month. However, here's the catch. What I know is that most of those individuals that have won are actively referring agents to the team leaders monthly. And so if they're referring one a month to a team leader, possibly somewhere between 5, 6, 7, and 8 will join. So right. Remember, that means that if you have 12 referrals to the agent, or to the team leader rather, and 6 join, that's a 2-for-1 conversion, 2-to-1 conversion, which, by the way, is better than what a lot of agents are seeing in their lead generation on their real estate business. Yeah. So it actually converts relatively easily. Think about your Mets database versus your Haven't Mets. It's the same thing. If I'm calling someone in my Mets database that I know and asking for a referral, the likelihood of them sending me a referral versus someone who's in my Haven't Mets is much greater. The same thing here is if you refer me as the team leader, someone to have a conversation with about joining Keller Williams, I have a greater likelihood because it's a warm handoff. Sure. So even if 50% of those convert, that's a good number. And so when I look at 7, 8, that probably means that the person is referring about 1 a month. So that may seem high for somebody who's starting out in the real estate business to refer somebody who maybe they don't have the context in the real estate business yet. And that may seem very undaunting to them to think, oh my God, I've got to refer 1 person a month. Maybe go quarterly. If you refer 1 a quarter, you're going to get 2 people in that very first year. If you could just once every 3 months refer somebody to the team leader that you think would be benefited by having a conversation with one of the team leaders, then the chance of you getting people in there is just increased, and you'll probably end up with 2. And then maybe the next year you would say, I'm going to double that and increase to 4. So it's going to be quarterly, but then I've got to be referring 2 people a quarter to the team leader, or some formula that's similar to that. I think it's starting out small and realizing what you're capable of and what you're willing to commit to. But on average, I usually will say these convert at about a 2-to-1 ratio. So it makes it real nice because you kind of have a mathematical formula then for how many people are actually going to join based on the referrals you send over.
Mm, mm.
Which I think also to a good point too, not to spend too much time on that. I think a lot of agents sometimes get discouraged if they send somebody over and the first one that they send over didn't join,
I've been there. I've
because
been
they
there.
automatically think, oh, it doesn't work. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, not everyone is going to choose Keller Williams, and that's okay. We don't want everyone to choose. We want the right people to choose Keller Williams.
Mm.
And so what we realize is that if you're just saying you're going to send one person over, and if that one person doesn't join, the chance of you building a profit share downline is probably not going to be very successful.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, I can relate to it, right? I've been with Keller Williams now six, maybe 7 years, and certainly have referred a handful of people there. And you know, if I look at really what my downline looks like now versus what it could have been, I can only relate to you know, reflect on that is that I have not been intentional.
Sure.
And it makes perfect sense. So the two ahas there. Number one, if you don't come from a sales background, lead generation background, you're probably not thinking through the numbers part of it, which is there's actually a certain number of activities you have to do on a regular basis in order to actually close so many, right? So you're going to refer a number of people that are going to come in the system, and either they're joined and they're not going to stick with it, or it's not going to be the right fit. So you're going to have to refer a certain number to get people to stick. So understanding those numbers and being intentional, I think is really important.
You got it.
Let's see, what other one? Yeah, brain fade, because I was thinking through that. But listen, I think that was that's really helpful, and I think name of the game from what I'm hearing is just being on purpose and making it part of your regular activities. Finally came back to me. Here's the other thing that I thought was interesting is that actually, if you're a new agent, and I've been there, it's extremely painful in the beginning, is that if you find that you are just struggling with your lead generation from a transaction perspective, building new transactions, you can easily transition over for a break mentally, for a spirit, whatever it is, and focus your recruitment on profit share. There's a way to balance those two and change it up. So to your point, you know, you could start getting paid within the first few months from a profit share perspective. And the beauty is that, you know, that's love that's going to keep on giving every year as long as somebody's sticking with it.
You got it. And by the way, it's like if you're contacting people and using some of your lead generation skills on your database or people that you know that may be in the real estate business, you probably aren't going to lose business by contacting them. So whereas if you're contacting buyers and sellers, you may actually run the risk of, you know, either bad reputation, they may not want to use you in the future, things like that. So if you're kind of getting burnt out on the lead generation side or a little bit scared about it, there's no better way to cut your teeth than contacting, you know, agents about joining KW, right? You're breaking in that conversation and getting kind of more and more courage each and every day to have conversations. And the conversation about talking to somebody about joining KW is a whole lot easier than having a conversation about doing real estate too.
Yeah. EJ, thanks so much for this. I think, again, this was not scripted. It was totally impromptu. Appreciate you doing it on such a quick turn. You know, I personally have great interest. That's why I've got involved from an ALC perspective. And hopefully anybody else who's watching, you know, finds value in this. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, Aaron. And I want to wish everybody the best of luck in their endeavors with profit share. This is an awesome opportunity for everybody. Get in on that floor and start building that. Do it.